Yo, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. And today we got ourselves the new version 4.6 phase banners that we're going to be discussing on whether you should pull or not. We have Arlecchino, Lyney, and much more. Now, before we get started with the video, make sure you guys hit that like button as well as subscribe to my channel for more type of content, and don't forget to turn on that notification bell so you guys don't miss on my latest uploads or to go live on my streams. All right, now on to the disclaimer. Everything I'm about to talk about in this video is all intended for meta purposes or to those who are unsure what to spend their primo gems on. If you like these rate up characters by design or gameplay, then feel free to disregard everything I say in this video and go for the characters you like. Remember, this is a gacha game, so you should always pull for your favorite characters. And now let's check out the banners. Okay, now starting off with the character banners, we got Arlecchino and Lyney as the 5 stars, and for the 4 stars, we got Xiangling, Freminet, and Lynette. Finally, I have something interesting to talk about, like just 2 recent characters rerunning. Also, I just love the fact that they are rerunning all the children from the House of Hearth alongside with Lyney and Arlecchino. It's just perfect. Anyways, let's start with the 4 stars from top to bottom. Starting with Xiangling, if you guys played this game long enough, you already know how busted this girl is. This character is actually the Gordon Ramsay of the game, and she'll cook every single opponent with ease. And she also canonically have a pet god. Honestly, don't know what else to tell you guys. Her burst applies constant pyro and does tons of damage. She's just busted. So it's funny how they put her on this because the 2 5 stars here are coincidentally pyro DPS characters. Regardless, Xiangling is a valuable pickup here, especially with Lyney, who synergizes really well with pyro characters. Up next is Freminet. Now, I will be real with you. He's probably one of the least characters I've used in the Fontaine lineup, but I'll try my best to sum up his kit. In my opinion, he is an interesting DPS character, but very underrated. He can alternate doing cryo or physical damage, meaning building for both cryo or physical damage are viable. Although from what I've seen, I believe his physical damage is a lot stronger than his cryo damage. So in a way, he is kind of like a 4-star version of Eula, but with a very different playstyle. His skill is what determines his playstyle. He has a gauge level system which he can control on dealing either more cryo or physical damage. If I remember correctly, at the highest gauge level, you deal more physical damage, and at the lowest level, you deal more cryo damage. Although physical does more damage, this will depend on your preferred playstyle. Overall, he is a unique DPS that I believe some may find enjoyable and some won't. And lastly, we have Lynette. She is our latest free permanent 4-star character you can get in the game. And coincidentally, both Xiangling and Lynette are free-to-play characters, which does raise up another question I have later on in this video. For now, Lynette as an animal character is pretty solid. She is pretty straightforward. Her burst is the main part of her kit, which basically applies animal and an absorb element from off-field while having a taunt. She can also buff attack, and since she is also an animal character, she can use the 4-piece Viridescent Veneer artifact set. However, due to the fact that her element is animal, it's one of the most competitive elements in the game. She has to face Sucrose, or Hazel, and of course, don't forget the 5-star animal characters. Out of all these characters, they all offer something meaningful to the game, but in my opinion, Lynette doesn't give you as much value compared to these other characters. Don't get me wrong, she's still pretty solid as a unit, and gets even better with the more constellations. But if you already have like top tier animal supports, or even Sucrose built, it's already kind of like more than enough to fulfill that role. Nonetheless, if you like Lynette, she's still viable and can get the job done. And those are the 4 stars. Now let's move on to the 5 stars. Up next is Arlecchino, and after years, the father is finally coming to the game. Her role is a pyro main damage dealer. Honestly, as a damage dealer, it's always hard to determine what their potential would be like. However, one thing that makes her stand out more compared to other pyro main carries is how fully selfish she is as a main damage dealer. She spends loads of field time, kind of like Xiao, and she can only heal from her burst, but not from anyone else. Now that's interesting. Out of all the current pyro damage dealers, she potentially have restrictive rotation problems due to the amount of on-field time she spends. Her bond of life is the entirety of her kit, which means she will have some interesting teammate options to pair up with. As for everyone else, she is a damage dealer, which again, it's hard to judge until she fully releases in the game. Like all damage dealer, it is highly up to you if you want her. But wait, there's one more pyro damage dealer we have got to talk about. And that's Lyney. He's a range pyro DPS character who synergizes with mainly pyro characters. Now, I know it's another pyro DPS, but his playstyle is completely different from Arlecchino's. I'm actually surprised Lyney isn't as popular as some other pyro DPS characters. I guess not a lot of people summon for him, which I was also surprised about. He's actually a pretty strong pyro damage dealer. Since he also wields a bow, he does damage mainly from his charge attack, plus his burst and skill contributes to his damage. In one of his passives, you want to have majority of your party consisting pyro units, which normally for this case, I would be very speculative about, but luckily for him, he has top tier teammates for that. Overall, I actually like him as a DPS, but I know some won't since he mainly does charge attacks. Hopefully in this banner, his usage rate increases. And those are the character banners. Now let's move on to the weapon banner. And here's the weapon banner, which from first glance, it's kind of interesting. Well, sort of. Like usual, let's break down all the weapons here, starting with the 4 stars from right to left. First up, we got a portable power saw. Finally, a recently new weapon to talk about. So its secondary stat is HP. Okay. And the passive here basically states that after you heal yourself or others, you'll gain this effect that can stack up to 3 times and will last for 30 seconds. After using your elemental skill or burst, you'll consume all stacks and gain 40 elemental mastery for each stack, then 2 energy per stack. The stacks can also be gained off field. Honestly, I don't know if anyone could really use this weapon. I guess you could use this on Dory since she could benefit with the HP and the elemental mastery, but that's about it. For now, this weapon doesn't have much use, but who knows? Maybe HOYO-verse might make more Claymore characters. Speaking of which, next up is, oh my, didn't I just do this weapon from the previous banner? I swear, I keep saying this weapon, man. Honestly, just go watch my older banner videos if you want more detailed information about it. For now, to put it simply in Razor terms, good for pyro damage and Ian stat stick. Then we have, man, this weapon, I don't even know why it exists. Up next is the Dock Hand's Assistant, which is basically the same exact secondary stat and passive as the Portable Power Saw. Although stat value isn't the same, this weapon has more usage than the Claymore. Also, this is currently the only sword with HP secondary stats, so characters like Nilou, Layla, or Cookie Shinobu will highly benefit from this weapon. Plus, the passive works for all of them. I mean, if you have any of those characters built and you plan on pulling this banner, this weapon may be a solid pickup. Finally, we have Favonius Warble. Like all Favonius weapons, the passive is free team-wide energy, which is always super useful. Luckily, bow is one of the best Favonius weapons and actually debatably one of the best bows in general. This is pretty much usable on any bow character, especially that requires high energy like Yelan or Goro or Kujo Sara. Literally anybody. You cannot go wrong with this weapon. Also, everyone gets a free copy when they start off in the game. So overall, it's a really solid bow to get. And those are the 4 stars. Now let's move on to the 5 stars. Alright, so starting off with the Crimson Moon Semblance. Ooh, sick name. Okay, so here are the stats. So base attack is at 674 and the crit rate is at 22.1%. Okay. Now for the passive here, it is called the Ashen Sun Shadow. Oh my god, another cool name here. Grants a bond of life equal to 25% of max HP when a charge attack hits an opponent. This effect can trigger up to once every 14 seconds. In addition, when the equipping character has a bond of life, they will gain a 12% damage bonus. If the value of the bond of life is greater than or equal to 30% of max HP, then gain an additional 24% damage bonus. So pretty much everything about this weapon, you got yourself a high base attack with the secondary stat of crit rate. Although not the highest, it is still free crit rate. For the passive here, it's interesting because of the bond of life is the main factor of this weapon, which, by the way, for those that doesn't know what bond of life is, it's an effect that prevents healing to your entire team. When it's active, it absorbs healing for the character based on the bond of life's base value and clears after healing equal to its value. In other words, it's kind of like an additional HP bar you need to heal up without healing your current HP. I hope that made sense. Anyways, currently Arlecchino is the only character with Bond of Life as an actual battle mechanic. This automatically makes this weapon very exclusive to her only. I guess I could see this being used on Hu Tao or Xiao, although you would have to make a very specific team to make this weapon work for the both of them. Otherwise, I don't think anyone will want this weapon. It's obviously tailor-made for Arlecchino, and she can easily practice entire weapons passive. And lastly, we have the first grade magic. So starting off with the stats here, we got a base attack of 608, and for the crit damage is 66.2%. Okay. Now for the passive here called the Powerful the Great, damage dealt by the charge attacks increases by 16%. For every party member with the same elemental type as the wielder, including the wielder themselves, gain 1 gimmick stack. For every party member with a different elemental type from the wielder, gains 1 theatric stack. When the wielder has 1, 2, or 3 or more gimmick stacks, attack will be increased by 16, 32, or 48%. When the wielder has 1, 2, 3, or more theatric stacks, movement speed will be increased by 4, 7, or 10%. So that's a pretty interesting weapon here. For the stats, we got base attack and crit damage are pretty much mid-range, so they are overall balanced. Now for the passive here, it boosts charge attack, additional attack, or movement speed based on your teammates' elemental types to the wielder. If they are the same as the wielder, you gain more attack. And if they aren't, then you have more movement speed. That's about it. Honestly, instead of movement speed, I would prefer if they gave a more useful stat on there, like elemental mastery or crit rate, but I guess that's a little overpowered. I guess they didn't really have any ideas for that. Nonetheless, this weapon is obviously for Lyney, so this is a perfect bow for him. For anyone else, it's a great stat stick. The more matching elemental types to the user of this bow you have on your team, the more value this weapon will bring. Other than that, it's a solid weapon to have as well. And those are the banners we just broke down. Now for my overall thoughts on are these banners worth to pull for for. For the character banners, you are honestly going to pull if you are a fan of either Arlecchino or Lyney, or heck, even both. Both of these banners here are thematically designed for the fans. But on a real note, I'm sure this brings up another question from you guys. Who is better? It highly depends on your preference of playstyles. Both are pyro characters and damage dealers. I will say though, Arlecchino is put in an interesting spot because she is another pyro damage dealer from Fontaine. For now, if you're unsure about summoning for Arlecchino, I would recommend to hold on to your primos and watch other people use Arlecchino at full potential and see if it is to your liking. I think the only reason I wouldn't pull is if you have way too many pyro damage dealers in your account, then I would recommend to skip this one. Also, with the 4 stars, it's again thematically awesome, but in terms of the value, they're okay. Unless you plan on building all of them, they are generally not as used as much. Although Xiangling here is a major W, but these two are okay. Also, the fact that Xiangling and Lynette are both free 4-star characters, that might be another reason to not pull in this banner. It all depends on your primos. Now for the weapon banner, it's only good if you are pulling for either Arlecchino or Lyney. Like all weapon banners, I don't generally recommend them, but because first grade magic is on here, it's not too bad to pull for. Otherwise, I don't mind skipping this either. It's nice, but not needed. You're either better off saving your primos for either the second phase banners in this patch or saving for the upcoming characters in version 4.7. Hopefully by then, you can decide what you want to do with your primos. And that is pretty much everything. So if you guys all enjoyed this video, make sure you guys hit that like button, as well as subscribe to my channel for more type of content. And don't forget to turn on that notification bell so you guys don't miss out on my latest uploads or when I go live on my stream. And that's gonna be pretty much everything, all I got. Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, until next time, stay epic and peace out.